All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be getting into a game-by-game breakdown, highlighting all the best prop bets in each game to then give you guys a prize picks and or underdog slip. Let's go ahead and get into it. So guys, let's go ahead and start off with this first game. We got Philly versus Phoenix in this game. Looking at it right now, Philly is pretty banged up, and I'm a little bit surprised that we are getting some prop bets for this game because we don't know if Embiid's going to play. We don't know if Kyle Lowry's going to play. We already know that KJ Martin's out. We already know that Jared McCain is out there as well. And so my point is that if maybe Embiid does end up sitting in this game, then someone like Paul George, who's already projected to get more minutes than what he averages, he'd be someone that we could be looking at to get his over points. That's an interesting spot there. Now, when we look at the status for Joel Embiid, he is truly questionable. Like we really do not have an indication of whether he's going to play or not. So it's a little bit risky to do that type of bet. But like same thing with Maxey, like if we were to get Maxey with Embiid off the court, he's someone that, look at his PRA, that'd be something we could potentially bet the over with. But right now, like as in terms of like us having a good bet there, I would not consider that a good bet then. Looking at the Phoenix prop bets that we were getting for this game, to me, guys, there's nothing really too much here that we need to go in on. All the bets that we were getting are pretty correct, I would say. DVP wise, projected minutes wise, there's no one that's expected to get a bigger role. That's mostly because no one's really significantly injured. Royce O'Neal's still out, but that doesn't really matter for us, like gain an edge on any prop bets or anything like that. So we go ahead and jump on into this next game. We got Detroit versus Portland. This is where we are going to start to get a little bit of edges, I would say, here. So we know that Jeremy Grant's out. DeAndre Ayton is expected to play in this game, listed as day-to-day, but I'm expecting him to play. He's probable. But the player that I want to talk about is going to be Deni Avdija. So we see that he is projected to get 10 more minutes in this game compared to his average. If we scroll down, we're going to notice that he is in the green in some of these matchups there as well. And that is a spot where I do think I want to get to. So I'm going to jump on into the 9-to-5 prize picks tab here. And I just want to take a peek at the prop bets that we are getting here for Deni Avdija, and I kind of like all of them. If you look at his per 36 production with Jeremy Grant off the court, this is a bet that he does average getting the over with. Now, we can see the last few games, the minutes have been up. He has been getting 37 minutes, and in those games right there, 19, 19, and 17. I just want to sort it by his minutes here as well, just to see like how many times on average is he getting the over when he gets those heavy minutes. So let's say around 37, he's gotten it 3 out of 4 times. Now, if we go a little bit lower, that might not exactly be the case, but still like to see that there. We're not really getting an edge there sportsbook-wise. All of them are kind of telling us, yes, the over is favored there, but about 52%. So I think that's a decent edge. Could he go cold? Could he have a poor night shooting? Sure, that's in the realm of possibilities here. I don't hate this one here as well. His over 1.5 3-pointers made here. This is a bet where if you look at his per 36 production with him off the court, he actually averages 1 more 3-pointer made per 36. The points prop bet and the 3-pointers made are 2 bets that go hand in hand. So that's a bet I can get on board with tonight. And then kind of for the rest of the Portland players, the prop bets that we're getting right now, I don't exactly feel like we need to go in on too much. They kind of are drawing a little bit more of a difficult matchup here against Detroit, which kind of sounds weird to say, honestly. But looking at Detroit, they are still going to be without Jaden Ivey in this game. So Thompson is someone that's expected to get a minutes bump. Jalen Duren, still not able to really trust his minutes. I really wish we could trust those minutes for him and or Isaiah Stewart. And so with that, we see some of these prop bets that are popping up. Not exactly prop bets that I feel like we need to go in on. We are seeing that Beasley and also Tobias Harris get kind of an easier matchup for them. I'm okay going in on the overs for them both. Probably more so want to go in on like Tobias Harris for his over points and assists. This bet that's kind of popping up as a decent bet, 52% likely to hit. Not exactly a lock and load bet, but also not a terrible bet. This is a bet with him where we can see lately he has been able to get that over the past 3 games. Those past 3 games are games in which Jaden Ivey has been out, so that does correlate. He has been getting, to me, a little bit of a minutes bump there as well recently, 34, 36, and 35, so maybe the projected minutes aren't accounting for that enough. We are seeing that FanDuel is currently giving him a line of 17.5 there as well, so there's a little bit of discrepancies in the lines there, and we see completely green there across the board. So kind of all the data points are telling us to bet the over there as well. So we go ahead and jump on into Indiana versus Brooklyn here. Brooklyn is also in an interesting spot today because they are pretty banged up. They could be without Cam Thomas. They are going to be without Cam Thomas. They could be without Ben Simmons. He's currently questionable. D'Angelo Russell could actually end up sitting as well. He's questionable, but more expected to play. And so if all those players sit, we are getting some big minutes bumps here. Like Keon Johnson, we can see he's projected to get almost 12 more minutes than what he has been getting on average. And so with that, that could create some discrepancies in the lines that we are getting. But as we can see, no really good over bets from what we're being told to bet on. Actually, the data is more suggesting that he's currently being overvalued given those injuries. Okay, he is expecting a big minutes bump, but not exactly something that we need to go in on. So definitely interesting there. Looking at the game spread, they are 9-point dogs in this game. And so he's actually someone that I do think would benefit with that blowout. Like his minutes are pretty much secure. From there, like Jalen Wilson is someone that has benefited with like Ben Simmons off the court. But again, the profits that we're getting for him are seemingly correct. If we wanted to go on the points line slightly, we could, but I feel like these lines are basically correct for him. And now we go ahead and jump on into the Pacers here. What we're going to notice is that Andrew Nembhard is still seeing that kind of minutes bump from kind of what he averages, and that's because Aaron Naismith is still out in this game. He has been someone that has seen his minutes tick upward. We're really not getting an edge there with him. I think just looking at the DVP, the matchup that he's getting, no significant edge there, even with that projected minutes bump. So not a player that we exactly need going on there. And really for the rest of the Pacers, I would say the bets that we are getting are seemingly correct for the most part. Like Halliburton feels correct. Siakam feels correct. Like we're not really getting that many big edges there. So again, let's go ahead and jump on into the next game. So in this game, Milwaukee seemingly going to be good to go. They're going to have Giannis active. They're going to have Chris Middleton active. And so with that, we'll take a peek at the Bucks. Are we getting any big edges there? Middleton is continuing to see his minutes tick upward. They are still a little bit random. That's a little bit of a concern there. But if we are seeing that minutes increase, he is someone that does draw a good matchup. And so part of the theme that you guys are going to notice throughout this video is that a lot of the good bets that I'm seeing on the board today are bets in which we're kind of being told to bet the under, but the over is the best bet. And so this is a day already where we're probably looking at more traditional sportsbooks. Fliff, if you guys are someone that doesn't have access to traditional sportsbooks like DraftKings, FanDuel, Fliff, Sleeper, Better, Bet are fine options for us to go with there. But let's take a peek at Chris Middleton because he is someone that falls under that category where we have some good bets, but the data's kind of telling us to bet the under. Vegas is telling us to bet the under. So like all of these bets pretty much here, guys, is under points. Very good matchup. All the data points are pretty much telling us to bet the over, except for Vegas. Vegas thinks that he's going to struggle a little bit. Same thing here with the rebounds and assists as well, where we're really being told to bet the under, but the data is kind of disagreeing with all the other data points telling us to bet the over, giving him about 10. And so the issue that we have here is like, all right, which one do we want to go in on? And it is kind of strange here. Like, good matchup for him. I think we do want to be betting the overs here. Is there a good like PrizePicks underdog bet that we can run out? Not really. I mean, like points and assists we could potentially go with here as well. We can see kind of struggling in the last game points-wise. You do expect that to be corrected in this game. But certainly interesting there. Like, I'm fine running this bet out on one of those other sites. Maybe even underdog if we're going to get a bumped payout by chasing a Chris Middleton bet like this over rebounds, 9.5 rebounds. I would rather do that. But as it sits right now, not a good PrizePicks or underdog standard bet. We're just not being rewarded for that. But this is a good, solid bet that you can make on any other sites. That's what the data is telling us here. And then guys, let's actually stick with that game. Looking at Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes is someone that with RJ Barrett expected to sit, does see a little bit of a bump in his usage. What we can see here is that he has been someone that we could look at to get over 1.5 3-pointers made. Definitely an interesting line to me. This is one where kind of all the data points are coming in, checking the boxes for us here as well. The difference between this bet and kind of the Chris Middleton bet is that the data is actually telling us to be betting the over here, giving us, or Vegas is telling us about the over here, giving us about a 53% likelihood if we slightly round up. And so that's a bet that I'm fine with. This is a bet I actually think could rise throughout the day. Maybe it's a bet that actually gets taken off the board. Like, look at this, guys. ESPN bet's giving us it at minus 140, and the lowest line is giving it as minus 125 DraftKings. If that number goes up a little bit from DraftKings, then I think this line will probably get bumped on PrizePicks, which would be unfortunate, but for now, a good bet there. And we jump back into the Bucks here. Nothing really there. We'll take another peek here at Toronto, seeing if we're getting any edges there. Quickly is someone that we probably still could be looking at. He did let us down in the last game. The last NBA video that I did, I called out Emmanuel Quickly as a good points bet at 16.5 points. Throughout the video, it was bumped to 17. And then actually throughout the night, it was bumped to 19.5. It got bumped so high that I actually ended up running out his under on underdog and hoping for a middle because it was that crazy of a line bump. And so right now we are seeing his line is at 17.5 points. He is someone that draws a good matchup here against the Bucks and Damian Lillard. Certainly interesting here. And so again, guys, I'm already seeing the lines at 16.5 on Underdog. That's a bet that I think we probably should be betting the over with. Like, he had a terrible night shooting in the last game, kind of oh well. Like, the average sportsbook line is giving us at 16.5, but all the other data points would be telling us to bet the over. Okay, so we are seeing some differing lines though. FanDuel's giving us it at 17.5. That's fine. He just had a terrible night shooting, honestly, in that game against Orlando, which was part of the equation, a little bit more of a difficult defensive matchup. And so I'm seeing this, guys. I saw his shot attempts there, a little bit easier matchup going against the Bucks 4 guards. I think I'm fine betting that over at 16.5 on Underdog. So that's like the first really standout bet that I think we have here on Underdog. I think that's a bet that we should be going out of our way to target. It'll probably get bumped to 19.5 again by the time lineup locks around once they correct that. But yeah, good matchup, had a poor night shooting, fine getting back there. Love the fact that the shot attempts were there. He had enough shot attempts there to easily get this over. Just had a cold night shooting. All right, so now we jump into the New York Knicks versus the Orlando Magic, guys. The Orlando Magic are still banged up. They're actually going to be without Jalen Suggs in this game as well, with all those other players that have been out. Anthony Black is sitting as well, so there's a lot of minutes that are available. Cole Anthony, instantly because someone we're probably looking at in this game, guys. Goga, if he gets a little bit of a bump in minutes, he's probably someone we're looking at, but Cole Anthony is someone that does benefit with those players off the court. So I actually want to take a peek at both him and Goga because they are players that do get a bump. So Cole Anthony averages 9 more points per 36 with those players off the court. Now, we're not giving him a massive minutes bump, only about 20 in this game. So we're not really accounting for the per 36 nature of that. But Goga, someone that maybe we could be looking at there as well for him to get a bump. He does average about 1 more rebound, 1 more assist, and 1 more point per 36 with all those players out the court there as well. So maybe we have an edge there, but kind of just early glance, it kind of seems like they're already accounting for that, but we'll take a peek. Now, I do remember the last time we had Cole Anthony in this exact spot, he did what he quickly did for us on the previous slate, where he just had a terrible night shooting. That'd be annoying if that occurs here, but I don't mind his... Personally, I think this would be a decent bet, but all the data points are kind of telling us not to do it, and I guess I can get on board with that. Even in the last game, guys, against Utah, 28 minutes, he saw 34 minutes in the previous game before that, just not shooting the basketball well. So I guess that is more of a stay away, unfortunately, and with those projected minutes being pretty low, not something that we need to go out of our way to target, but that's probably why we are seeing some line differences. Maybe the projection minutes are honestly maybe a little bit too low. So let's see here. The best DVP matchup that we're getting is, well, really all of them except for points here for Goga. Interesting there. And he's someone like I thought we would honestly have a good edge on him, and we're just not getting it. He is someone that has been someone that's been able to get to 30 minutes, but yeah, even though he does benefit with those players off the court, he's someone that we can't exactly go in on. And it's probably due to the blowout nature of this game, guys. They are 11-point dogs in this game, and it's really not a high-scoring game. 209.5 is the game total, so they're projected a blowout, and they're just projected not to score that many points, the team as a whole, and so that's probably more of a reason as to why we're staying away from that team. Let's jump into the Knicks here. Jalen Brunson day-to-day, Karl Anthony Towns day-to-day, Miles McBride expected to sit in this game. So the interesting thing here is, could they end up sitting maybe one of Karl Anthony or Jalen Brunson? Potentially. This is a game in which, again, they are 11-point favorites. That wouldn't be shocking to see. We do see that tend to happen a little bit with some of these teams here when that occurs, but not exactly any spots here that I like. It is a more difficult matchup, and I do think there's that blowout risk, which could lead to some of those players seeing their under minutes. And so we'll see there. And so we continue on, guys. We got Memphis versus Dallas. So looking at Dallas, obviously they're still going to be without Luka in this game. Kyrie expected to sit here as well, which is going to obviously increase the minutes for a lot of players here. We could potentially be getting some good edges here. So we are seeing Quentin Grimes expected to see a minutes bump. Spencer Dinwiddie expected to see a minutes bump. PJ Washington, someone that gets a pretty big bump in his usage with those players off the court. So probably a good spot for us. Let's take a deeper dive into this game. And so I just wanted to sort it by Dallas here. And what's interesting here is that I think we want to be attacking some of these over bets. Are we getting any good over bets, though? That's the question. I don't mind. See, again, this is the issue with today, is that I'm noticing here. Vegas is telling us to bet the under. Obviously, the data here is based off of what Vegas expects. That's how we gain that long-term edge. I actually don't mind the idea of betting PJ Washington for over his PRA. He gets a decent matchup here. Okay, 7th best matchup on the slate for over PRA here for him as a forward against Memphis. Memphis is banged up. You look at his per 36 production, he should be able to get the over here. He averages about 16 points per 36 with those players off the court. Will he get 36 minutes? We have him closer to 34 minutes. I think the issue becomes games that could be blowouts, but this game is not projected to be a blowout. 5.5 points, decently high-scoring game. If it is that case, if it is, a close game, he'll be part of the reason as to why. I don't mind the idea of betting PJ Washington for over his PRA. Quentin Grimes is certainly an interesting spot here as well. We see he's projected to get 30 minutes in this game, and we do see a little bit of a min spike recently over the last 3 games, 33, 30, and 33. In those games, 26, 17, and 11 points. The line is set at 13.5, but we are seeing some differing lines here, guys. Some are giving him a line of 14.5. Some are giving him a line of 13.5. And he is someone as well that does get a bump per 36 with those players off the court, about 5 more points per 36 to about 20 points total. And so again, we're not exactly projecting him to get 33 or 36 minutes. The highest that he's gotten recently was 33, but this is a pretty appealing game, and we are seeing some different lines. It's not a lock and load bet by any means, but I do like the idea, I think, of getting to him as a good over bet here. I think I'm fine with that. Another case that we're seeing here is with Spencer Dinwiddie. So we're seeing 2 lines that are kind of currently off. Okay, Spencer Dinwiddie is someone that does get a big bump minutes projection wise. He does actually get the minutes, the biggest bump points wise with those players off the court and usage wise with those players off the court. Obviously not playing well over the past few games, and that's probably why we are getting differing lines here. Like Underdog has it at 15, and honestly on Underdog we're probably betting the under, but I'm kind of fine maybe betting both these guys for their over points on PrizePicks. Very interesting that we're getting those line differences. And then from there for Dallas, I don't think we're really getting many big edges here. And we'll jump back into the game preview tab, take a peek here at Memphis. Memphis is still pretty banged up there as well, guys. Lots of players that are out. Jalen Wells has been the player that's benefited the most because of that, but I think now it's kind of been established that he is someone that does benefit both minutes-wise and seemingly production-wise. And so with that, all the lines that we're getting them are seemingly correct. What I am noticing here, though, is that maybe his PRA is a little bit too low given the matchup, but I don't know. I think the lines are pretty much correct there with that team. So let's go ahead and jump on into the next game. Clippers versus Minnesota. Honestly, nothing too crazy here in this game, guys, in terms of us getting any significant advantages here. We are seeing Zubac potentially for over his points and assists here as a good bet. Gets a good matchup there as well going against Minnesota. And this is not a bet where we're going to get any lock and load bets by any means, but we are seeing maybe, over his points and assists, gets a good matchup. He's not really expected to get a minutes bump, but he has someone that's kind of consistently getting this over, especially when those minutes have been there. So we see these 2 games against OKC and the Spurs, not exactly getting heavy minutes, but if he does get 32 minutes in this game, I do expect him to get the over here. I don't mind this bet. It's a good matchup. I think we can roll with this. 52.5% likely to hit right now. That's a bet where I think we are gaining an early edge. Maybe this bet does end up getting bumped throughout the day. Solid line there. Honestly, though, if we're doing that, we could end up just doing his over points as well. I think those two kind of go hand in hand. We are seeing that there with his game log as well. So kind of both go hand in hand. Fine with either of them. All right, so we jump into Chicago versus the Spurs here, guys. Chicago going to be without AO still. We are seeing Devin Vassell still projected to see a big minutes bump there for the Spurs. Lonzo Ball is continuing to get more and more run, which is certainly interesting to me. We do have an interesting point spread. Just wanted to call out, guys. Fliff has this at 4, where we could be betting the under, and then a site like Hard Rock Bet has it at 2.5. Definitely an interesting game line. But the point here is that it is actually a high-scoring game, and it's also projected to be a close game. But definitely interesting there that we are getting those differing lines there from Fliff. We are actually getting some sneaky bets in this game, so let's actually take a peek at this. Patrick Williams is going to be one of them, where seemingly one of the better bets on the board right now is actually betting on him to get for him to get over 1.5 3-pointers made. He has been cold recently. That's a concern there. Minutes are about the same there as well. It's certainly an interesting line. I don't know exactly why we're kind of being told to bet on that. Not exactly a bet that we need to go crazy with, but Vegas giving it a 53% likely to hit. We can see the lines that are influencing that. Probably Fliff the most. Maybe Fliff is a little bit too wrong, but all of them are about 130 or so. So interesting bet there. But other than that, really, I guess that's the only bet that we have. Looking at the last game here, Miami versus the Kings. Okay, so Jimmy Butler probably sitting, right? He's out in this game. Josh Richardson expected to sit as well. And so when those players do sit, we do see Jaime Jaquez get a big bump in his minutes. I think he's someone we could potentially be looking at. Tyler Hero actually doesn't benefit all too much. The lines are seemingly correct for Tyler Hero as well. I'm actually surprised. We're really not getting big edges here for this game. Now, we might in terms of fantasy score. We got that a couple nights ago in this spot. And that's a good call, guys. The fantasy score lines have been crushing it lately. Honestly, be on the lookout for that. If you guys want access to those, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Those are typically released, around 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on PrizePicks. Underdog typically a few hours later, but we can gain some pretty big edges there. Just want to call that out there. That's typically our best spot. Right now, we're trying to gain some early edges. Those are going to be the later edges that we can get later on in the day, maybe up until lineup lock. I touch on that on my NBA tips and tricks video. that I typically have linked in this video, guys. Check that out. That's also in the description below. But looking at the Kings here, we are seeing De'Aaron Fox currently listed as day-to-day. He could end up sitting in this game. If he does, we are seeing Malik Monk would be someone that does benefit minutes-wise, and he has been someone that I think we could potentially be looking at here. DeMar DeRozan's been someone that benefits as well. But are we getting any good prop bets for Malik Monk? Not really. He does draw a more difficult matchup. So that does it for the game-by-game breakdown. I do want to call out real quickly all the bets that we are getting that are either hammer bets or good bets. These are bets that are kind of checking all the boxes here, guys, for us, where like a hammer bet's the bets that are checking all the boxes where, you know, it's seemingly a good edge for us. Great bets are bets where basically checking all the boxes, not exactly all of them, though. Okay, and let's actually just start out with hammer bets. And actually, real quick, before we do that, a few nights ago, guys, on the 3rd, we did have a bet that's a lock bet. I had completely forgot that I had coded in a lock bet as like a tag for us to be betting on for a call out for us to sort by. And we've only had one thus far. It was Josh Hart for under his fantasy score. You guys can kind of see why. This is a good example of kind of what I mean. So his line on PrizePicks was at 37.5. Underdog had it at 35.3. And that was basically all the other lines that we had. So all the data points were telling us to bet the under. And so that made it kind of a lock bet in the sense that it's not, I don't want to say it's a lock bet to hit, like it's not a lock to hit, but it's a bet that we definitely 100% should be going out of our way to target. That's a bet that we should be getting high volume on, especially because it had a 55% edge as well. Vegas thought that as well. And so all the data points were telling us to bet the under. That's what we're trying to go with here. And just as an FYI, I like that those differences were enough to matter. Like he still had a good game, just slightly got the under. And so that's what we're trying to do here by doing these hammer bets. And so we're seeing like Cade Cunningham potentially for over his points, rebounds, and assists here on PrizePicks. Now, yes, the sportsbook data is telling us it's at 41, but all the other data points are telling us that it also probably expected to get the over. Not a massive edge here, but what I have noticed is in situations like this, guys, it's about 1% more likely to hit than the current edge that we were getting. But I don't hate that there with Cade Cunningham, actually, going against Portland. Decently high-scoring game. They're favored to win. Not terrible, actually. I can get behind that as long as those minutes are there. Not terrible. With Jaden Ivey out, not terrible. He actually does see typically an assist average, which I find strange. And then from there, we'll toss back in the great bets. I don't really see anything there with Josh Hart, but honestly, this one with Josh Hart, the fact that it was a hammer bet there with Josh Hart, I could see potentially betting his under fantasy score again today. But then we're kind of looking at some of these other bets, probably a little bit more. Maybe Nikola Vucevic for over his points is not a terrible bet there. I'm fine with that. We are seeing Giannis for over his rebounds. That seems like a decent bet there as well. We're getting a lot of decent bets today. I wouldn't say any that we like are locking in on, but a lot of decent bets. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the bet of the day. All right, guys, so looking at Underdog right now, we're just trying to take advantage of some of the prop line differences that we are seeing between PrizePicks and Underdog. I do think Quickly's going to have a bounce back game here. If you guys don't think that, you could bet as under 17.5 on PrizePicks. Basically the opposite for Spencer Dinwiddie. If you guys think that he's going to bounce back in this game, you could bet as over 14.5 points on PrizePicks. Both are kind of fine, but both are bets where we're getting a slightly better edge here on Underdog, so I'm fine kind of running these out here. And then, yes, guys, this is early. We are going to get better bets throughout the day, but these are some of the bets I'm looking at as it currently sits here on PrizePicks. Just trying to gain some early edges here, and I think we're doing that thus far. Again, guys, the 9 to 5 cheat sheet is going to be updating throughout the day for both PrizePicks and Underdog. Be on the lookout for that. We should be getting some better bets. It is a pretty big edge with a lot of injury news, and typically that does create some big edges there, specifically for those fantasy score lines. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Good luck with all your bets. I don't know, 9to5sports.com. You can access those tools for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.